Okay, so today, for most of you, this is probably a pretty dreary day. I know in South Louisiana, the rain is pretty terrible, but it is April the 5th, and this is our Nutrition Support Monthly Call, and I am Courtney Neubauer, and will be presenting today for you. Our agenda looks very similar to the agenda for all of our other monthly calls. We are going to briefly discuss the pandemic EBT or PEBT, supply chain assistance funds. So this is something that will probably fall off the agenda next month, but want to go ahead and still include that this month. School year 21-22 food service flexibilities. We're getting to the end of the school year and approaching summer food service, but we want to make sure that there's a clear understanding of what waivers will stop with the end of the school year and what waivers will be present for the actual summer months. We'll also discuss the transitional standards on milk, whole grains, and sodium, an update on eScholar and CEP Manager. We'll discuss the training updates and then other program reminders. So to start, PEBT, announcement flyers are available on the PEBT Data Manager's Toolbox. They're also on the DCFS PEBT website. There are questions and answers. The information will be updated as needed. And there are links here to some of the documents that you can use for communication. There's black and white, color. There's also a Spanish version and a Vietnamese version. So the PEBT planned payment schedules for the current school year 21-22, are listed here. So the benefits for last school year are complete, and I know many of you have probably even received calls from some families saying that their funds were going to be expunged from the system because they may not have spent them. So we're now rolling into the current year PEBT, so new issuance, which will start going out or has started going out. So you need to be aware of that. The school systems can submit the data any month in the school year, but it is highly recommended that the data be submitted by the submission due date to make sure that the benefits are going out timely. The first issuance did go out last week, and issuances will continue to be released every Tuesday evening through the end of the issuance cycle. So you may be getting some phone calls from families. You may have some information may have been requested from you from your data manager, but just want to make sure that you are aware of the new PEBT payment schedules that are beginning now. This year is a little bit different with PEBT compared to last year. So last year there were hybrid students, virtual students, whereas this year what we have seen is that the majority of kids have gone to school the majority of the school year. And what we have seen more of is periods of times of quarantine or absences related to COVID, and not necessarily the closing of schools like we saw previously. So DCFS has come up with a tiered system, and the benefits will be available to those families based on which tier they fall in for each month. So if it is a child that is attending virtual school, then they would be in tier 3. But the other students who may have had days of quarantine or at-home learning, those may fluctuate between the different tiers depending on the month. Unexcused absences or absences that are not related to COVID, which includes weather days and other attendance statuses, which are not COVID related, are not going to qualify for PEBT benefits. The file must be submitted to the PEBT admin portal, and that can be accessed similar to how it was done last year. So they'll need to create a myla.gov account. You don't want to use a personal myla.gov account for PEBT. And if there are any questions, you can email dcfs.pebtsupport@la.gov. And you need to make sure you're including all of your schools in the spreadsheet. And the subject line, if you're going to email, is Data Manager PEBT Account Access. Most of you will not be responsible for this submission, but I want to make sure that you are all aware. Sometimes we do have overlapping roles, and the data manager is also the child nutrition supervisor, but sometimes it is someone different, but I want to make sure that you all are aware of this data request that will be coming related to PEBT. If families call needing help accessing their card, so if they're trying to activate their card, they can first call the DCFS helpline, and the number's listed here. If they show up at your school wanting assistance, the school can verify the parent is attempting to activate their card and enter the correct information into the system. So activation requires the card number, last 4 digits of the school local ID, the child's date of birth, and then the mailing zip code. Additionally, if parents are trying to verify their child's benefits, they can call the PEBT help number, and they can also create an account in the Cacfp system, which is the self-service portal where they can access the page and obtain pertinent information there. School systems are encouraged to create an account, to encourage parents to create an account in that self-service portal so they can get to that student information, and that may decrease the number of calls. Additionally, school systems may want to consider sending out letters to parents identifying if their child is eligible or not eligible for PEBT based on the eligibility requirements. And the goal of this letter is to reduce unnecessary phone calls. This is just a suggestion, so not at all a requirement. This was a suggestion that was posted in the PEBT office hours to try to help decrease the number of calls, as we know that you at the schools receive the majority of the calls related to PEBT. All school staff who are involved in the PEBT process can attend the weekly Zoom office hours, and they are scheduled on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. So I would encourage you, especially this time of year as we're really approaching the issuance of PEBT and they have started, that you attend some of those office hours to gain pertinent information. Some of the information that was on the slides here, I did obtain from the office hours slides to make sure that we're providing the same message to all of you. Supply chain assistance funds. I've gotten a lot of questions this week related to supply chain assistance funds. I think that's because you all have seen that money has been deposited into your account and you may be starting to spend some of that. So the supply chain assistance funds, this is something that was released in December, and USDA announced that $1 billion will be provided to states, and is for cash payments that go directly to the school districts to be used to purchase food for school meals programs. Louisiana received $16 million in supply chain assistance funds, and we distributed that to all of our public, tribal, charter, and nonprofit schools, as well as our residential childcare institutions. The funds must be used exclusively for the purchase of domestic food products that are unprocessed or minimally processed. So some examples could be fluid milk and other dairy foods such as cheese and yogurt, fruits and vegetables, which also includes 100% fruit juices, grain products such as pastas and rice, meats, whole grain pieces or food items such as ground meats, and meat alternatives like beans or legumes. Foods in a wide variety of minimal processing states can be purchased. This includes whole, cut, pureed, or any form like fresh, frozen, canned, or dried. Most of our school systems are planning to use these funds to support the purchase of milk. It seems to be the easiest to track, but that is not a requirement that you only use these funds for milk. If you're going to use them for any other foods, you just need to make sure that they are domestic and that it is unprocessed or minimally processed. So just a reminder that these funds are meant to support products that are domestic products. So if you're going to use these funds, it has to be products that meet the Buy American requirements. With other purchases, there is the possibility that you can have exceptions to that Buy American provision, but that is not the case for the SCA funds. So the funds must be used to purchase minimally processed domestic food products, and there are no exceptions to that domestic requirement. The funds are available for National School Lunch and School Breakfast and can only be used for those programs. So under National School Lunch and School Breakfast, we do have the Seamless Summer option and the after school snacks. And since those are components of the National School Lunch program, the funds can be used for after school snacks under National School Lunch and the Seamless Summer option. But the funds cannot be used to support any CACFP at-risk program or any summer food service program. SFAs are required to maintain documentation to support their food purchases. What most school systems are doing, they're keeping a spreadsheet and they're using their invoices to kind of keep track of the funds until they completely draw down the funds from that SCA in the SCA amount. So how we do have a sample form that we have created. It is just a template. You don't have to use that. Any way that you want to track these funds is fine as long as you have a way to track the purchases with these funds. The funds were deposited directly to your nonprofit food service account, and they do not need to be separated from other monies, and they do not need to be tracked separately from an accounting standpoint, but you do need to document how you're spending those funds as it relates to the documentation requirements. We have posted a few memos and we've had some trainings. So we have 2 memos that we posted early on related to these funds. We also had a training that was held on January 26th related to these funds. And then the payments did go out on March 18th. The text description for those payments was FY22 SCA. So that memo line should be on that payment. And this is a one-time payment, so you should have received those funds. If you are not sure if you received those funds, you may want to get with your accounting department and have them look for the funds in the amount listed in this memo SFS 22-X102, and that payment would have been made on March 18th, and the description in LA Gov is FY22 SCA. So now on to school year 21-22 food service flexibilities. And I debated whether or not I wanted to remove some of this because we are in April and most of you are gearing up for the end of school. But what I thought was really important is that these waivers, even though they are related to school years, some of them, most of them, are still related to the seamless summer option. And so that is going to still be in effect until June 30th, 2022. So I felt it was kind of important to leave some of those in because these waivers do expire June 30th, which does go from the school year into the summer months, but these waivers only apply for the seamless summer option. So we do have the meal service flexibilities, which include the non-congregate feeding, meal service time, and parent guardian pickup. The meal pattern flexibilities. So these are those targeted meal pattern flexibilities that we've had all school year. Those will still be in effect through June 30th. PEBT, so we know that PEBT is here again for this school year, and we do know that we'll also have PEBT this summer. So it is not going away anytime soon. The meal claiming flexibilities, so school systems can operate the seamless summer option and receive those higher summer food service reimbursement rates, and that is true through June 30th. And then after school meals program, so CACFP at-risk meals, this will expire. The use of the at-risk program will expire with the end of the school year. So that at-risk programs will not be able to continue in the summer months, even if school systems choose to continue the seamless summer option. They will not be able to still offer the CACFP at-risk meals. This is a brand new memo that was released this morning. So if you're following along on my slide deck, you'll probably say, hey, that one's not in there. And that is true. So I added this just shortly before this training because it did come out today. So we've had this Consolidated Appropriations Act, and it's been extended a few times. And most recently, it has been extended through September 30th, 2022 for some areas, and there are also some additional areas that have been addressed for next school year. So the first thing that's part of this came out on March 15th, and we just received that information today, and it allows for the substitution of vegetables for fruits under the school breakfast program. That was something that was in effect for this school year. We saw that it was extended, and now most recently it has been extended to cover next school year as well. So school year 22-23, we also have the ability to substitute vegetable for fruit. It prohibits funds from being used to procure raw or processed poultry products from the People's Republic of China, and this is extended through September 30th, 2022. It also provided guidance related to the pricing of paid lunches for the National School Lunch Program. And originally it was for school year 21-22, but the most recent edition, they've added guidance for 22-23. So in school year 22-23, SFAs with a negative balance in the nonprofit school food service account as of December 31st. So should have to complete the paid lunch requirement. So we, just as we've seen in previous years with the memo, it is now common, this Consolidated Appropriations Act, that only SFAs with a negative balance are required to complete the paid lunch equity tool. It also extended the allowance of offering the low-fat flavored milk in the National School Lunch School Breakfast Program. It's extended through June 30th, 2022, and the reason why that is only through June 30th is because July 1, the new transitional standards take effect, and that flexibility is already part of the transitional standards. This memo came out today. It's SFS 22-X115. So another reminder about the CACFP at-risk meals. So as a reminder, the at-risk program can only operate when the school year is in session. So once the school year ends, the CACFP at-risk program must end as well. We saw last year that some of our school systems are doing multi-day issuance of meals. If you have a shortened week at the end of the school year, your CACFP box must be planned accordingly to match the school days for that week. So CACFP cannot continue after the school ends. So if school ends on a Tuesday and you're issuing a week's worth of meals, you need to plan accordingly to have your CACFP program end on that Tuesday as well. So whatever the end of the school year, the CACFP program must coincide with that. And even if school systems do choose to extend the seamless summer option into the month of June, CACFP at risk cannot continue through the month of June as well. So once the school year ends, CACFP at risk program must end as well. So now moving into the summer meal service option. So we've kind of touched on that because this is, some of it is kind of a continuation of the school year, but we do have two options for summer. The first is to continue with the seamless summer option. And then second is the summer food service program. So we have the slides and the video from the seamless summer training, which was held last Monday. We also have the slides and the video from the SFSP training that was held at the last week as well. We also had another training yesterday and one today, but these two kind of cover most of the information. Seamless summer, if you're going to continue seamless summer, the flexibilities that are current for this school year in June 30th. Although seamless summer can continue into July, it follows the schedule of the National School Lunch Program. So July seamless summer options require a new application that coincides with the National School Lunch application, and those flexibilities would not be available either. So seamless summer options, if you want to continue that in summer months, most of our school systems are currently approved and operating under the seamless summer option in this school year, and they're utilizing the nationwide waivers number 85 and 86. So nearly all of those waivers, those nationwide waivers that we have, will remain in effect through June 30th, but that is for seamless summer only. And these waivers include that higher SFSP rate of reimbursement and also the non-congregate feeding options like grab and go, and that can be for single meals or multi-day, and also home delivery models. And those are only available under the seamless summer option through June 30th. So similar to what we've had this school year, most of those will continue through June 30th under seamless summer. If delivery of meals is something that you intend to do, that is allowable under the seamless summer option through June 30th. Sponsors must still obtain written consent from households if they want to deliver meals. We at the state agency must approve your plan to deliver meals before you begin delivering. If you get approval of a plan and then by us and then that plan changes, then you must get approval of the new plan. So we need to approve the plan that is currently in effect within your school system. So if you're intending to do delivery of meals, you need to reach out to us to get those plans approved before beginning that type of service model. A reminder of the specific school meal pattern flexibilities, and this is an extension of what we talked about previously. These are in effect through June 30th, and these are very specific to the grains offered, so that all grains do not have to be whole grain rich, that you may not be offering a variety of vegetable from the vegetable subgroups, that you may not be having two different milk choices, low fat milk, that you're able to offer that 1% flavored milk. So these flexibilities do not allow you to not serve a particular component or the required amount of a particular component. So if there are issues related to that, please call us, let us know what's going on. But these flexibilities are not meant to allow you to serve less food, but just some flexibilities in what you are allowed to serve due to some of the issues that you may be having. So as a reminder, USDA does not have waiver authority past June 30th, 2022. At this time, all of our nationwide waivers will end as of June 30th, 2022. There are no current nationwide waivers for the summer food service program for this summer. USDA does still allow states to submit individual waivers for some very specific program operations. And at this point, we have had our waivers approved for summer operations, which includes the first week review waiver, the meal service time restriction waiver, and the offer versus serve waiver. If you need additional information on those waivers, I encourage you to refer to the summer food service training that was listed on a previous slide, and they will go into that in much more detail on that training. Transitional standards on milk, whole grain, and sodium final rule. So on February 7th, USDA published the transitional standards final rule. This rule provides certainty for the next 2 school years, while USDA works to collaborate on permanent standards. We did post a few memos, so memo SFS 22-90 and memo SFS 22-91, which contained more information on the traditional standards. We also hosted a training, and those slides and the video are available on Louisiana Fit Kids. The key provisions of the new transitional standards, the first is flavored milk. So this allows SFAs to offer flavored 1% milk at lunch, breakfast, and also as an a la carte sale item. It does also require that unflavored milk must be available at each meal service. So although you can offer flavored 1% milk, you must still have an unflavored milk option available. This extends the transitional milk requirements to the special milk program and also the child and adult care food program for children ages 6 and older and adult participants. The rule also clarifies that lactose-free or reduced lactose fluid milk meets the requirement under those programs to provide consistency across all of the nutrition programs. The second provision is related to whole grains, and it requires that at least 80% of the weekly grains in the national school lunch and school breakfast be whole grain rich. The remaining 20% of grains must be enriched grain. And as a reminder, whole grain rich products are those grain products that have at least 50% whole grains, and the remaining grains, if any, are enriched in that one product. So whole grain rich products have come a long way. So I know many school systems are using products that are considered whole grain rich that have that 50% whole grain, and those have been more accepted by a lot of the students, and those will be still considered whole grain rich products. So, but now we will move to a requirement of at least 80% of those weekly grains being whole grain rich. The last provision is related to sodium. And the first part, it retains the sodium target 1 for national school lunch and school breakfast through school year 22-23. And then after that, it continues to retain sodium target 1 for school breakfast for school year 23-24, but it institutes a interim target 1A for national school lunch, school lunch program for school year 23-24. Okay, the next section is going to be on eScholar updates and the CEP manager system. Now, I've received a fair number of emails related to this over the last few days, and we're trying diligently to get back to all of those. But this is really exciting, but also, as with anything new, there's definitely hiccups that we have to work through. So growing pains as we move into this new system, and some minor adjustments that have to be made, but overall going pretty well. So what's new for 2022? First, I encourage you to review the direct match training for end users, which is a training that was done in the summer, and it's an overview of the entire direct match system. So what we've done differently for this school year compared to previous school years is we are utilizing the eScholar direct match system to feed all of the data into the CEP manager system. For this to be accurate, it is very important that the enrollment and the identified students are up to date in eScholar. So CEP Manager has been released. So it was released on the 1st, which was Friday. We do encourage you to make sure that all of your matches, including manual matches and address matches, need to be complete in eScholar to ensure that the correct population data is there. We hosted 2 trainings, one on February 22nd and another one on March 29th. And those trainings are posted on Louisiana Fit Kits. I encourage you to watch over those for more information on this new system. So Friday, we were working diligently to try to synchronize some last minute changes. If you are logging back in today or in the next day or so, please refresh the data. So there were a few sites that were missing or data that was not showing up correctly, and we made some changes. You'll click on the refresh, which is those little 2 arrows in a circle, and it'll refresh the data. If you need to refresh again, you can click on that again if it gets stuck trying to pull in the new data. If you still are having sites that are not showing correctly, or you have enrollment or identified student figures that are not present, then please reach out to me or Jane, and we will work to get those corrected. But before you do anything, once you log in there, please try to refresh the data and see if that corrects the problem. So we found a few sites that we needed to address on the back end, and so the data needs to be refreshed from your end to get that information pulled in correctly. So we want to make sure that you're identifying all of the possible students that you can for the purposes of CEP. So a couple of options that we want to make sure you're utilizing. The first is the match options that uses person. So using our systems that we are using right now for SNAP and TNF. Also making sure that you're capturing all of the DSNAP students. So the process that we used for DSNAP was a little bit different this year. We are working on a better long-term solution for DSNAP. But just in the interim, we had kind of a workaround. And then also the third is address matching. So the direct match counts, we want to make sure that those are correct. So you need to make sure that you resubmit your current students to unique ID so that they have a ID assignment, and also that you are claiming the master record for that student. So the master record is what is used in unique ID to match against SNAP and TANF. Students often have history records, so a student may move many times in a school year, and so each time they move, the school system kind of that they've moved to reclaims that master record. So if a student belongs to you, you want to make sure that you're capturing that master record so that you're going to have that student matched in your system. A student can only be matched once, since it's a stagnant date in time. So we want to make sure that the correct school system is getting that child matched for the purposes of CEP. You want to make sure that you're resolving all of your near matches, and then you can download from the search feature, which will give you a complete list of all the students who matched to the SNAP file from the start of the school year through the current date. It is still a requirement that all SFAs, even those that are operating seamless summer, even if you didn't process applications, you're still required to use eScholar to directly certify students. The updates are still available monthly. The requirement to notify households of direct certification eligibility has not been waived. The February file for both SNAP and TANF are available in eScholar. I would expect that the March files will be available in the next day or so. So be looking for that information to come out regarding the March files. There are still a few school systems that have not run direct match this school year. This is a requirement. You must do it. Now that the CEP portal is open, it is critical that this information get done as soon as possible. So manual authorization, this is a tool that was added to under person matching. So manual authorization allows you to directly certify a child by entering their secure ID and then clicking match. Another thing that needs to be done is you need to make sure that your Head Start students are also in eScholar. So eScholar is pulling whatever data you have submitted to EdLink for Head Start. If you have students that have a secure ID and they're enrolled in your school system, but they may have not been submitted to EdLink under Head Start, you will need to manually match those in eScholar Direct Match as well. DSNAP. So DSNAP eligible households are directly certified, just as any other SNAP eligible child. To qualify a child via DSNAP in this school year, each district was provided a file of the DSNAP eligible children. The file was dropped through the district's FTP site. For most of our non-public districts, the file is located in the folder that is named your LEA number and then 001. Students that qualify for DSNAP will need to be manually added to eScholar using that manual authorization that we mentioned 2 slides ago. To manually authorize a child, you would put their number in, click match as we saw on a previous slide. Here, you would select DSNAP as your match reason, the start date, and then click update. The next option for matching students is address matching. And the purpose here is to capture students who may be living in the same household. Address matching compares the addresses of students in unique ID to the address of students in the SNAP file. The system, we at the state will be running the address matches monthly, and then districts will resolve the near matches. So there will not be any automatic matches for address. So because that requires a level of insight from the local level, no students will automatically be matched with address. So it will produce a list very similar to your near match list, which then allows you to go in and determine if that there should be a match or not for that particular student. Districts need to be cautious when resolving the near matches. Pay attention for some of those buildings that you know are apartment complexes that just may be a building with no unit number. And then sometimes students that are related may have different last names. So the system is meant to pull this information to one location to help you, navigate through that easier, but it will not make any automatic matches for you. So the address matches are here under the match option. It's under address, and then it will run and it will produce a list of queued matches that you'll need to go through. Here, it does give you a percentage of a match score. You don't need to necessarily worry about that score. You really want to determine if that particular student is a match. You can drill down with this down arrow. And then from there, you can determine if those children are a match or not. So some key points of the CEP manager system. For this to be successful, it is very important that the child nutrition staff and the data managers work together to ensure all enrolled students and identified students are up to date. You'll want to resubmit your current students to Unique ID for ID assignments and claim that master record. Direct Matches uses that master record, so you want to make sure that you claim that, and the history records will not be used for direct match. You'll want to make sure that you're running both SNAP and TANF and resolving all near matches, resolving all address matches, ensuring all DSNAP students are added, and ensure all DC extensions that were completed in a food service software program are actually entered into eScholar through manual authorization, or that they were captured through the address match, because the students that are in food service software, if they're not included in eScholar, they will not contribute to the identified student count. We did ask for a waiver of the CEP deadlines for this current school year. So what we saw in previous years was USDA issued a nationwide waiver, which extended those deadlines for submission of the population data, as well as the CEP elections. We as a state asked for that waiver on a state level. We did receive that waiver. So the waiver makes the following adjustments. So the data can be any data between July 1st and June 30th. The population data is due to us June 30th, 2022, and final elections for CEP must be made by September 30th, 2022. Even though the deadline for CEP has been extended, it is very, very important that SFAs look over the CEP data in eScholar CEP Manager. This extra time that we now have allows for us to make corrections to sites, make manual additions as needed, and ensure your login credentials are up to date. If you wait to get into eScholar until closer to June, we will not have time to make these adjustments. So please, even though the CEP data is not due until June 30th, please, in the next few weeks, log on to eScholar and get into CEP Manager, look over the data. Let's discuss anything that you see that may be a little bit off so that we can get this corrected before the data is due. Training updates. So the agendas and the Zoom link are still posted on Louisiana Fit Kids. We have removed the registration from there. And the reason why is because when you click on register, it takes you to Zoom, and you can register straight through Zoom. So there will not be an additional registration step. By now, you're used to that. You've been doing this for about a month, but just wanted to make sure that you're still reminded of that. You will still receive a follow-up email confirming your attendance, the training hours, and the USDA training codes. After the training, we do still ask that you complete the questionnaire or evaluation after the training and let us know your thoughts. All of our training slides and recorded videos are posted to Louisiana Fit Kids. There are occasionally a few that may not get posted, and that is mainly because sometimes I forget to resume the recording, but for the most part, they all should be on Louisiana Fit Kids. April is pretty full of training, so we're getting to the end of the school year, and all of our April trainings are open on Louisiana Fit Kids. As a reminder, on Wednesday, April 6th, that is tomorrow, we have part 3 of the Understanding Childhood Obesity series, and that is at 1:30. Thursday, April 7th, we have a summer food service training for prospective new sponsors at 1 o'clock. Tuesday, April 12th, doing a repeat of the civil rights training. If you have staff that may not have attended a previous civil rights training, this is a great way to get that requirement covered. Tuesday, April 19th, a summer food service training on Procurement 101. That one's at 1 o'clock. Tuesday, April 26th, another summer food service training. This one's on the procurement plan. And then Wednesday, April 27th, the training on hurricane preparedness is at 1 o'clock. Our next monthly call will be Tuesday, May 3rd at 1 o'clock p.m. Another reminder here about our Understanding Childhood Obesity webinar series. This is tomorrow from 1:30 to 3:30. Please join us. You can register today. The registration link is listed here. So please join us for this great series tomorrow. Save the date for another training we have coming. So we are planning an in-person, you heard that correctly, an in-person training. So the obesity conference that we're planning on Thursday, September 29th at Pennington here in Baton Rouge will be another part of the Understanding Childhood Obesity series. We're also planning an in-person state update for the day before that on Wednesday, September 28th. Our plan is to do that in the afternoon to allow you time to travel in the morning on Wednesday and then stay for the in-person training. So we hope to see all of you in September. For most of us, it's been a long time since we've seen each other. So hopefully we will have a really great turnout to this in-person training that we're having in September. Other program reminders, we'll start with procurement. On February 15th, the governor did renew the state of emergency, and that was through Wednesday, March 16th. He did not extend the emergency proclamation past Wednesday, March 16th. So at this point, you need to ensure that all of the state procurement laws and regulations are followed. And please be reminded that there are exceptions that still exist in state law for procurement of local agricultural products in support of farm to school initiatives. Food service management contracts. The deadline for charter schools to submit their food service management company contract or agreement amendment is June 1st, 2022. Contracts and contracts amendments will be approved as of the date they are approved by the state agency. All FSMC contracts for the 21-22 school year end on June 30th, 2022. If your SFA is operating the summer food service program during the month of July, meals may not be claimed for the days you do not have an approved contract. So do make sure that the contract or the contract amendment is in our office no later than June 1st, 2022. A requirement about SAM. So federal regulation states that contract awards that are expected to equal or exceed $25,000 require the contractor to be active in the System for Award Management, or SAM. This could include small procurements in addition to formal procurements. Just a reminder that that requirement is there for any contract valued at $25,000 or greater. Another requirement about SAM, so you're all used to us contacting you every year when your SAM is about to expire and asking you to get that renewed. Part of the SAM system, they're now transitioning from the use of the DUNS number to now using a unique entity ID, or UEI. The UEI is now a 12-digit number that's going to replace the 9-digit DUNS identification number. The UEI is provided as part of the SAM registration. So all organizations that receive federal funds are still required to register with SAM, but you'll no longer have a DUNS number as part of that registration. It will be a new UEI. Health inspections. So by regulation, schools shall obtain a minimum of 2 food safety inspections each school year. Sponsors are required to request in writing 2 inspections per year at the beginning of the school year and must follow up by April 15th if both inspections have not been received. We do require that you submit those dates to us in the online system. Delay in submitting that information to us could jeopardize your claim for reimbursement. So your March claim, when you go to submit that, you'll have a reminder that will appear prior to submitting the claim, and you must provide a response. In April, SFAs will not be allowed to submit the April claim until the health inspection reporting has been done for each of the sites. So don't wait till the end. If you have those dates, go ahead and get those in. The system will be happy to take those now if you have those dates available. Another reminder about the Medicaid demonstration project. So on December 14th, Louisiana, was announced as one of the 8 states selected to participate in the expansion project. This will begin for school year 22-23. So the CEP data that we're collecting now does not contain Medicaid, but if you, it will be for the following year. So you cannot use it for this current submission of data, but for the next submission, at the end of school year 22-23, it will contain the Medicaid data. So starting July 1, we will start providing the Medicaid data on a monthly basis through eScholar, just as we are doing with SNAP and TANF. Hopefully we will see that this gives us more students that will qualify for free meals, and then in turn have more students that more schools that will qualify for CEP. Administrative reviews. So administrative reviews are still happening. I moved this from the beginning of the training to more at the end because we are in April. So they are still happening, but they are kind of winding down and hopefully going to be finishing up in the next few weeks. Review dates are on the website. The review date is listed as the Monday of the review week. I hope by now everybody knows if they are being reviewed, they have started submitting all their documentation, they've had meetings with CN Resource, because if you're just now figuring out you were supposed to have a review, you are really, really late to the game. As the reviews are completed, they are sending the reviews to us. We review and approve, and then we will give them approval to send that final report to you. So even though the review may have happened, you may not have received any final report from them, and that's because the process is that they send that to us first, we approve it before it goes out to you. If an SFA does not submit the required documentation, we have instructed them to proceed with the review, and they will issue findings for any areas of non-compliance, and not submitting documentation will be a finding. School Lunch Hero Day. So this is just about a month away. So Friday, May 6th is School Lunch Hero Day. This is a special day for you to recognize school nutrition professionals and the difference they make every day. So we encourage you to use this opportunity to recognize the hardworking professionals in our cafeterias. You can send Kathy Carmichael photos, stories, pictures. We will highlight these and share them on social media. And last but not least, we have now started a new section of the Louisiana Fit Kids website, and that is the Employee Spotlight. So our first Employee Spotlight staff member is Miss Ashley White. She's the Morehouse Parish Child Nutrition Manager. And so we congratulate her for being the first person that we are going to spotlight. We'll start having this on social media. So if you follow Louisiana Fit Kids on all of the social media avenues, we will be highlighting different staff members. You can submit nominations directly to Kathy Carmichael, or if you have nominations, you can submit that to any of the state staff. So I know that most of the state staff have you have a contact at the state agency that contacts you regularly. If you want to submit that information to them, we can make sure that it gets to Kathy as well. So just want to congratulate Ashley and cannot wait to see who our next employee spotlight will be. Okay, that is the end of our training today. You can contact us at childnutritionprograms@la.gov, or you can call at 225-342-9661. I am going to look over the questions and see what I can answer. If you have any other questions, just submit those to the chat and we'll see if we can get those answered. The first question is related to the summer food service procurement training. The question is whether or not that training is the same as the National School Lunch, School Breakfast training. It is a little bit simpler. So we planned these summer trainings to address many of the summer sponsors that do not do National School Lunch, School Breakfast. So the training is going to focus on kind of just the need to know for summer specifically. It will be very, very similar to National School Lunch, School Breakfast, of course, because the requirements are the same. So if you've attended some of those National School Lunch, School Breakfast procurement trainings and you feel like you've got it, there's probably not a reason to attend the summer procurement training as well. Okay, yeah, so oftentimes LDH does have most of the school systems on a schedule for their second review, their inspection, and most of the time they do have those done ahead of time. But federal regulation does have a requirement that you at least confirm with them. So, you know, if they tell you have a schedule, if they can give you the date of the schedule of when you are on that schedule, that may help your comment that you enter in our website. There's another question about the state update on September 28th, whether that will be available in Zoom in addition to in person. I don't have an answer on that right now, so we will definitely take that into consideration. I know the plan right now is in person. I'm not sure if there will be a Zoom option for that as well. The spreadsheet for the tracking of SCA funds, if you need that, you can send an email to childnutritionprograms@la.gov and we can get that to you. I believe it's also linked in the SCA training, but not 100% sure on that. But if you email us, we can get that out to you. There is not a deadline for the use of the funds on the SCA funds on a local level. I do encourage you to try to spend those fairly quickly, only because there is a requirement of tracking. So the longer it takes you to spend that, the longer you have to you'll have to keep track of all that. So I do encourage you to try to spend that in a timely fashion. But if it does take you through next school year, you know, that's absolutely fine. So don't stress about having to have that all spent by the end of this school year. There's a question about whether or not schools are required to provide outreach material regarding PEBT. So that tip of providing a letter to let them know if they're receiving. That was just an option. And the main reason is to try to decrease the number of calls. So although not a requirement, we do know that school systems are the ones who take the brunt of the calls for PEBT. So trying to find solutions that will help you, you know, as much as we can to decrease those questions. Another question about how often will the CEP manager update? So right now, what we're doing is making some manual adjustments to the back end, so that data is being updated as we're finding, you know, little kinks or little things that we need to adjust, which is why we've asked for you to refresh the data. Right now, the data is pulling as of April 1. So the data you're seeing is as of April 1. Since that's a date, like just a stagnant date in time, that data is not going to change automatically. Once the new run for DSNAP, or I mean for SNAP and TANF is done, you'll see that the data will change after that. Also, if you make any updates to manual entry, you'll want to refresh the data then. So it just depends on kind of what you're doing in the system. It's not going to automatically update. You're going to have to refresh anytime a change is made into the system, whether it be address matches or adding manual entry or other DSNAP files. You'll want to make sure that you refresh the data. It's just a click of a button and it'll refresh it for you and bring in all of those changes that you have made to the system. Are there any other questions? Okay, I think that's all of them. So it's now just 2 minutes after 2. So my goal was to try to get you out of here for 2 o'clock. So I got pretty close to that. If you have any additional questions, just please let us know. And we look forward to seeing you on some of our additional trainings coming in the next few weeks.